All right, tier one of games, and there was no tier one game more impactful, drawing more headlines than the Bengals losing at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs, 25-26. Chiefs take it at home. They don't cover the spread. 5.5 points they were favored by. 47.5 points was the over-under. So we saw an over hit in this one. Not a lot of overs hitting this early on in the season, but that was one of them that did. And we'll get to I'll just go right into the notebook here. And my first thing is if the roles were reversed on that fourth down PI, there's no way the refs throw the flag. There is absolutely no way. We see it all the time on sideline catches. There's literally the Moss segment on ESPN is dedicated to this. If it was an offensive player going over the top of a defensive player, they would not have thrown the flag.
I thought you meant teams reversed.
No. Sorry. Yeah.
I thought you
I got to make that clear.
Chiefs are getting
no. Not doing the Chiefs are getting the flags thing. They called the hands to the face earlier that brought back a big play. That's like you can miss a hands to the face pretty easily. They called it on a crucial, what was it, third down. So I'm not doing that. I'm saying if it was a wide receiver going to the top of the cornerback, I think when there's competition at the catch point like that, and the guy gets to the ball first, which objectively I think it was Dijon Anthony, rookie safety, he got to the spot where the ball ended up first. Now, he was out of control, obviously. He was flying into the back of Rashee Rice. But when you get to that spot first, you own the spot, in my opinion. It's like that's offensively or defensively. It's the guy that gets there first did it. And in my opinion, he got there first. And if, again, the roles were reversed, if this is a wide receiver going on the back of cornerback, there's no way they would have thrown the flag.
They say 50-50. It's 60-40, ain't it?
In terms
of the offense.
It is.
Tie goes to the runner every single time.
They're not looking for OPIs
in
situations like that. They're looking for DPIs. And you see it all too often. And I just think I'm not like wildly upset. It was a violent play. And when your contact is that early compared to when the ball gets there, you're obviously leaving yourself in a situation where you can get flagged. But I just think as a game, as a sport, we should err on giving defenders grace in those situations. That when it's like two guys jockeying right at a catch point, well, maybe it's on the quarterback for throwing into those situations.
To the real estate first.
That like we need to be putting the flags in the pocket because of how impactful those plays are. And again, you're throwing into a window that's tight unless it's very obvious that one guy's in the spot and the defender goes through him. I think part of me
thinks that Patrick and Andy are so smart that they set these scramble drills up and tell guys to sit down in these areas because they know that these third level defenders, these shell defenders, are going to have to come through the offense. And to your point, they're going to call it on the defender more often than not. So whether it was a really brainy play by Patrick to be able to put it there or a heady play by a young player like Rashee Rice to sit down and understand that if you're boxing out what's behind you, they're going to have to come through you. Play with strong hands. You have an opportunity to make a catch, maybe a penalty.
Yeah. All right. Back to the notebook. I wrote here, end of the half situation with 14 seconds left when the Bengals had the ball at their own 1 yard line and they ran a sneak. Now, obviously, I don't think you're going to really lose yardage on a sneak, but I thought what they could have done and if that situation rises again, they could have just ran 3 passes where they just threw the ball out of bounds from shotgun, not risk anything. Just a thought. That one was just thought ahead. Jim Nantz called Carson Steele a fullback in this game.
That's
racist.
Feels racist.
That's racist, Jim. It's only because he's white and you know it.
Undrafted white running back. He's got to be a fullback.
If I have to call it bigotry when I see it. The man literally returns kicks for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'll have to call Jim. I'll have to call up Jim and let him know how we feel about that.
Next thing you know, he's going to call Riley Moss a safety. Brutal. All right, Jalen Watson.
They're going to have to run with Carson Steele a lot more here, too. We'll get to that later.
He looks solid. I mean, I think he's much more willing to stick his nose in between tackles than Pacheco. Pacheco runs hard, but he runs hard more in space than he is willing to really drive a pile. I just don't think he has the heft that Steele does to really move a pile the way he does. So the fumble was terrible. Obviously, a game-changing play there that from Carson Steele, but they gave it to him on a third down after that. He converted, so good on you.
No fear.
Chiefs got to figure out left tackle, man. They benched Suamadiia in this game. Kingsley.
I have thoughts.
Now, again, Trey Hendrickson is the type of edge rusher that is going to give rookies problems. Those guys that can get to the edge and bend back to quarterbacks, you flat out don't see them in college. They are unicorns. That's why they rack up sacks the way they do. It's a difficult guy to stop. But in this game, it almost cost. Like, he took over that game, and Patrick Mahomes knew it. His eyes dropped so quick. Like, that was about as timid a Patrick Mahomes performance as I've seen from him 3.8 average depth of target, 3.8 yard average depth of target. Only Bryce Young was lower this past week. So,
and he had an explosive over the top.
And he had the deep ball to Rashee Rice, which I don't know what Cam Taylor-Britt was doing on that play. He was running like 2 trail, which like 2-man. When you run 2-man, you think you have 2 safeties over the top.
So you go underneath.
So you go underneath. So you ride on the back hip. You don't try to go hip to hip. You try to ride the back hip. And he rode the back hip literally all the way down to the goal line. He was in good spot and eased off the gas to ride his back hip. And it was touchdown. Good throw and good route by Rashee Rice, but no clue what Cam Taylor-Britt was doing. Obviously made up for it with that insane one-handed pick. Game kind of turned into a cornerback show. Trent McDuffie played elite in that game. Dax Hill played an awesome game. The pass breakup he had in the back of the end zone, I'm going to tweet it out a little bit later, but that was an elite play that you don't make unless you have a 6'7" wingspan that Dax Hill does, because it was a perfect throw to Mahomes to Xavier Worthy.
6'7" wingspan.
Is a 6'7" wingspan playing corner. So game kind of turned into a cornerback show. Other things I had here. Leo Chanel was on the field for half as many snaps as Nick Bolton, but made twice as many plays. I know it's not like, I know he's not going to be your Mike linebacker, but they got to figure this out in some way, shape, or form.
City with
because Chanel can do so much, and yet he's only playing like 30 snaps a game, and he's not even like a liability in coverage from the snaps he's playing. Now, he obviously isn't in there in third downs and that sort of situation, but Bolton still continues to get picked on as a problem. Fat man touchdown. We saw Wanya Morris catch one. What would your celly have been had you caught one?
My celly would have been scream at the O-line because we had to throw it to a fat guy. Like, you have to be able to run the football when you get to the low red area. First off, my celebration is the huge Gronk, the biggest Gronk spike you have ever friggin' seen in your life is what my celebration would have been. But the message is, guys, we shouldn't have to empty this gun yet. This is our emergency pistol on ankle. That's, throw to the fat guy. It's like when you grab the ankle pistol after they already took your big gun and your normal pistol. Well, they took the pistol from Andy Reid when they weren't able to get into the end zone in the low red area. They just got stuffed. And you got to get a little creative to get in. Kudos to these guys. Wanya Morris looked like a real athlete getting out there, leaking, and obviously nobody guarded him. Nobody had to guard all 64 over there.
All right, last thing I noted here. Bengals, it's bad right now. You're 0-2. The AFC North quietly has the second fewest wins of any team in the NFL. Any division, in the NFL. Steelers at 2-0, Browns at 1-1.
Thank God for
And then
Justin
your biggest
Fields.
Competition, the team you thought you were competing against, the Ravens, they're also 0-2. So, and we'll get to them in a little bit, but only the AFC South has fewer wins as a division. So the Bengals could, and they look a lot better. I mean, their coverage unit looks so much better than it did a year ago if they just can get T. Higgins back and play those guys the next 15 games now.
I want to go back to the Suamata Ia conversation.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because we've talked about him before. And Chiefs fans, one thing you got to know is these O-linemen are really well coached. And the other thing you got to know is Kingsley's a rookie. He's never seen anybody like Trey Hendrickson. And I remember there was a time in my life where I was one of the best guards on the planet. And there was a time in my life where I was one of the top probably 15 tackles in the planet. And when I had to play tackle, for the most part, the matchup boded well for me because I was bigger and stronger than a lot of these ends. I could put hands on them and put them down or run them by with relative ease. But then you play guys like Trey Hendrickson. And for me, the guy that was like Trey Hendrickson was Ryan Kerrigan. And Ryan Kerrigan was very, very strong. And at the point of attack, he ripped. He did a rip to the sky. And when he did his rip to the sky, he was going to run the hump with it. And with him came you. I mean, you're in tow on this guy. Kingsley's got a really strong inside hand. And when you throw that inside hand, I'm going to stand up here. So if I'm a right guard and I throw my inside hand, I have a tendency to open that outside foot because you got to be able to cover. And when you throw that inside hand and the outside foot drops, it shortens the edge for a guy like Trey Hendrickson, who's very strong. He's going to push his way through the pocket and flip his hips. He doesn't flip his hips as well as some of these speed rushers like Vaughn and those guys, but his ability to really press that pocket, whether it's a bull rush or whether he's riding that rip, you have to stay really balanced. And the best way to stay balanced, and I know what Kingsley's being told to do this week, throw your outside hand. Throw your outside hand first. Boom. You want to shock him with your outside hand because when you throw that outside hand, it brings that right leg into play. You're square. You're strong. The edge is wider. It's a longer route to get home. For Suamata Ia, the question is, how quickly can he get that left hand going in pass protection? What you were looking at was the right side. That's what I know how to do. Kingsley on the left side.
Yeah, because it's
a matchup problem. So, I mean, he's not going to be facing that kind of matchup every week. He's big and strong. He's athletic. But one thing he's not technically savvy yet. And once he gets there, he's going to be a good player.